Okay, so from here, we are now going to create our agreeable cityscape along the northern bank of the Yarra River. Maybe the southern bank, we will see how we go. Okay, so the first step is to create some splines. You will need to download a couple of programs, and I'll just jump to them here. So the first program you will need to download is the spline offset tool. So you can download it at the i2 software website. The second tool is the Greeble tool, which you can download from the Max Clanky website. So you'll just need to restart your 3ds Max in order to integrate those programs into the 3ds Max. So from here, what we need to do is just to clean up the screen and create some base splines. So what we can do here is just turn off a few of these layers that we maybe don't need at the moment. What we've got here is the simple waterway layer. You can see in the side panel, this is a editable spline, so it's a great starting point. What we need to do is to simply clone this line. So if you right click clone, we want to do a reference clone. So you click OK. So that will create a secondary spline there. We want to make sure that we have our splines in the appropriate layer. So we need to just add some new layers for now. So the first layer we will call the driver splines. We have put the cloned river layer under the driver spline layer. And the other thing we need to do is to make a base rectangle that is going to be the edge of our cityscape. So create that edge like so. Okay, so that's a driver spline that's already in the driver spline layer as well. So now we want to make some additional clones of our rectangle shape and our waterway. So if we just highlight the shape and you can right click on it, go into clone. We want a reference clone again. So if you just click that and the waterway as well. So we'll just click clone, reference clone again. So click OK. So we just want to highlight both of those and drag them into the spline clone layer. All right, so now with the river clone, we want to add a spline offset tool. You can now edit that. So in the modifier list, so just scroll down. It's further beyond my screen, so I'll just keep going down. So I found it there. So I've got the spline offset tool selected. As you can see, the offset has made a pretty wacky shape. So we just need to modify that. So the first thing we need to do is change the end type from a closed line into a open butt. And we don't need to keep the original spline, so we can just keep that as it is. And we also need to increase the spacing. So what you can do here is just turn on the natural layer to see approximately where that spline offset should be sitting. So we'll just zoom in there and just follow that boundary as best as possible. We could also use that existing spline that's created from the natural layer, but for the fun of it, we're going to use spline offset. what you may notice is that we have a little issue in the middle here. So the workaround solution now is just to fill that in. So we're just going to create a new line that generally follows that alignment of the river corridor. And then we're going to apply a offset to that as well. So if we edit poly, in the modifier list, we're going to go down, 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 all the way to spline offset. And the offset distance needs to be the same as this one. So it was 42.9 in the end. So there you can see we've sort of patched up that that issue, which may end up being a bigger issue when we do our Boolean process. All right, so now we are going to add some streets to our driver spline layer. So I'll just go ahead and do that now. Both these lines need to be cloned as well. So I'll just make sure that they are sitting in the driver spline layer. So I'll just drag them into here first of all. Okay, so I'll just relabel these. Okay, so we'll just clone those ones as well, so they can now sit in the spline clone layer. We'll turn off our driver splines. So we're basically just working with our spline clones layer. Now, I also want to create Boolean for these splines to start building our cityscapes. So what we'll do is clone everything in this layer. And if you simply just press create new layer, and we'll put it in the shape Boolean layer. Now we have a new layer, and the spline clones layer can sit tight if you need to come back to that at all. So now we'll be creating our shape Boolean. So we create that by highlighting the outline. So now we want to create our Boolean. So in the create panel under the compound shapes, we've got our shape Boolean tool here. So we click on that, and then we can jump into the modify panel. You can see it's listed there. So what we want to do is a subtract. So under the operand parameters, we'll click the subtract tool. You just want to make sure all your other layers are turned off, so not to confuse any splines through this process. And then you'll just click add operands and simply just highlight the shapes that you're seeking to Boolean. So we've got 4 here. So once that's done, you stop that. And now you've got your base grid to start modifying. So now we are going to build some footpaths along our river foreshore and along our streets. So the first thing we need to do is clone this again, just so we can create a footpath layer. So if you just right click clone, we want a reference clone again, and we'll just call this footpaths. Click OK. So we'll now do a spline offset. So in the modifier list, we'll jump down spline offset off the screen again. And looking at this, the foreshore footpaths are usually, greater than a typical footpath. We want them at around 20 meters. So what we can do here is modify that. So we want our footpath to be on this side, not this side. So we'll set that distance to around 20 meters, I'd say, just to make sure it's all clear. So we'll just make that a clean 20-meter offset. Interestingly, the round bevel function doesn't work on the inner side, so that's okay. We'll just keep it as a square edge for now. And we'll just remove, well, we won't keep the original spline, but basically we just created our footpaths. So we now want to do another clone to create our buildings. So we'll just go back to the base and clone that. So right click clone, and we'll call this layer building.